The worst part wasn't her hand. It was my son's silence. The sound wasn't loud. It wasn't some echo across the yard. It was quick. A sharp contact and then stillness. What made it sting was that Marcus didn't step forward. He looked at the ground like a boy who dropped a plate. I touched my cheek once, felt the heat and put my hand down. I didn't shout. Didn't cry. I picked up my purse from the picnic bench, nodded to my sister without looking at anyone else, and walked to my car. I heard someone say my name and a child ask, "What happened?" But I didn't turn around. In the driver's seat, I checked the mirror. 5 faint lines blooming against my skin where her fingers landed. It looked like a lesson somebody wanted me to learn. I took a breath, started the engine and drove home. My house was quiet when I stepped in. I put the keys in the bowl by the door. The hallway smelled like lemon cleaner from the morning I'd spent mopping. My kitchen clock ticked steady. I set my purse on the table, walked to the bathroom, and rinsed my face with cool water. The mark was still there. Less angry under the light, but clear. I stood straight, watched myself breathe and said out loud, "Enough." That word didn't come from anger. It came from a place I trusted, older than pride, quieter than grief. I turned off the bathroom light and made tea. While the water boiled, I thought about how we got here. My life is simple by design. I did nearly 4 decades at the school district, most of it making sure the right books got to the right kids in time. I liked order. I still do. I'm up before the sun. I open the blinds. I start the coffee. I walk the yard and touch leaves I planted with my husband, Harold, back when our knees were better and our arguments were small. He's been gone 6 years. I still talk to him. Just a word or two while I water what he started. "Your tomatoes are stubborn," I'll say. The basil's showing off again. Calms me. A person shouldn't have to pretend they don't miss what kept them steady. Before Vanessa, my son Marcus came most Sundays. He'd change a porch light, take out the AC filter, bring me whatever he found on sale that week. He never liked to see me lift heavy things. He was quiet, a peacemaker by nature. If 2 kids in the neighborhood fought, he'd stand between them. I once told him there's a line between peacemaking and hiding. He nodded like he understood. Maybe he did then. Maybe he forgot. He met Vanessa at a friend's cookout. She walked like she knew where she was going and talked like she'd already arrived. First time she came to my house, she carried a lemon pie in a tin you can buy at any grocery store bakery. She said, "I bake something," and smiled too big. I cut it open, saw the factory-perfect bottom crust and said, "Thank you, baby. Looks nice." That's how I like to keep things civil calm. There's no prize for catching a person out on small pretenses. They married 2 years later. I helped with the down payment on their house. It wasn't fancy, good bones, a porch swing that needed tightening, a roof a few years from trouble if you asked me. I put Marcus on one of my savings accounts for emergencies. "So you won't drown if something breaks," I told him. He said he'd use it only when necessary. I believed him. The first year they called often. Photos of fresh paint. "Look at the light in the living room, Ma." Little updates that said we were still a family. Then the distance started. Not big at first. Vanessa answered when I called. "He's busy." "I'll tell him you rang." Sometimes she didn't pick up. Sometimes he would text hours later. "Sorry, Ma. Fell asleep." I started seeing withdrawals from the savings. A few hundred here. $850 there. Then 2,000. The description said repair. But there was no message from Marcus. I told myself not to make a fuss. I'd given him the access. Still, the quiet bothered me more than the numbers. When I asked, "Everything all right with the house?" he said, "Just a few things, nothing serious." His voice felt like he was walking on a narrow ledge and didn't want to look down. I let it be, but I wrote the dates in a little notebook I keep for bills. Writing things down helps me keep my feelings from talking over the facts. 2 weeks before the reunion, I saw Vanessa at the store near the bakery section. She was with a friend. I heard my name without hearing it because it came out like a role, not a person. "She's nice, but she's always in our business," Vanessa said. "He's a grown man. He doesn't need to check in with his mom every week." I told him we're our own family now. Her friend murmured something. Vanessa kept going. "And that account? He doesn't need a leash attached to her bank card." I left my cart right where it was and went home without bread. I didn't call Marcus. I didn't approach her. I made dinner and ate in silence. I slept fine that night, but something had moved. When my cousin David sent the big group text about the reunion, who's bringing what time to come, Vanessa took over the thread with her usual voice. Assignments, demands, emojis like confetti. It didn't bother me. I signed up for sweet potato pies. Marcus texted me separately. Vanessa planned a lot, but bring your pies. People will riot if you don't. I laughed at that. People can stand to practice self-control. I wrote back. I'll bring them anyway. The day came hot and loud like a proper summer day should be. Folding chairs in the shade. A grill, 2 men too proud to admit needed cleaning. Kids with sticky hands reaching for watermelon. My sister Louise wore a white hat and a wider opinion. She told me I looked good in yellow. I told her she looked like a sermon about patience. Vanessa moved through the yard like a coordinator. She is good at that, telling people where to put things, reminding them of forgotten tasks. Good skills can turn a person difficult if they forget to use a soft voice. She didn't have a soft voice that day. Then came the picture. Aunt Louise slapped her hands together and said, "Come on, let's get a family photo. Big one first. Then we'll do a cousin's shot." I took my place next to Marcus. He smiled, quick and uncertain. Vanessa walked up and said, "Let's have just the young folks for this one." "It's all young in my eyes," I said, light, nothing meant by it. I didn't move. "I mean the nuclear families," she said. "Just the couples and kids." "We're all a family," I said. "We can do both." Marcus said, "We can take 2. It's fine." That pushed her. "It's never just one way with you," she said to him, but loud enough for everyone to hear. Then to me, "You don't get to run every room." "I'm standing next to my son for a picture," I said. "That's not running anything. You insert yourself everywhere." Her mouth tightened. "Let us live our life." "We are," I said. "We're taking a photo." Her eyes flashed and she stepped closer. "You always do this. You think money means you get a vote in our marriage. You think because he's on your account that you—" "I think respect doesn't come with a receipt," I said. My voice stayed even. "I don't charge for it, but I don't give it away free." Maybe it was my calm. Maybe it was the audience. Maybe it was everything from the last year spilling over. She didn't wind up. She didn't shake. She just reached and struck me. Open palm, clean hit. The kind of hit someone throws who believes it will end the conversation. She said, "Maybe now you'll shut up." I didn't answer. I looked at Marcus. And he looked at the ground. That was the moment the story changed shape for me. Not her hand, but his choice to stay still. Picked up my purse. I told my sister, "I'll call you," and I left. Back home in my quiet kitchen, the clock ticked on the wall like it always does. I could have called everyone I knew and told them what happened. I could have built my case. Instead, I made tea, sat down, and opened the folder where I keep the information for that savings account. I ran my finger under Marcus's name beside mine. I said it again, softer this time. "Enough." I didn't sleep much, but I didn't toss either. I lay with my eyes open and let the plan agree to me. By morning it was simple. I went to the bank when it opened. I removed Marcus as an authorized user. I signed where they told me to sign, thanked the woman who helped me, and drove home. I wrote a letter, short, not cruel. I told him I loved him, reminded him that boundaries keep love safe, and informed him the access was ended. I printed a photo of my cheek from the night before and folded it in with the letter. On the back of the envelope I wrote, "Actions have costs, pay up or lose more." I walked it to the post office, asked for a notarization and express delivery, and kept the receipt. When I got back, I watered Harold's basil. "Had to prune," I told him. "You know how it is." 2 days after I sent that letter, the phone started ringing. At first it was once late evening. I didn't answer. Then twice the next morning, right when I was making my coffee. By the third call my voicemail was full. His voice, tired and unsteady, filled the messages. "Ma, I got your letter. Can we please talk? Vanessa knows she went too far. Please just call me." Then another one, shorter. "I understand what you're saying, but we can work this out. Don't do this, Ma." The last one came late that night. "I know you're listening. Just, please." I listened to them all, one after the other, and didn't delete a single one. But I didn't respond either. Not because I wanted to punish him, but because I needed him to sit in the quiet. To feel what it means when a door that's always been open suddenly locks from the inside. People don't value your presence until they have to live without your voice. That week I went about my life like normal. I went to the market. I cleaned out my closets. I met my sister Louise for lunch at the Blue Hen Diner. "You holding up all right?" she asked, stirring her tea. "I'm fine," I said. She leaned in. "I heard about the letter. You really did it." "I did." Louise let out a low whistle. "That's colder than a January morning." "It's not cold," I said. "It's correction." She nodded slowly. "You're right. But folks like them? They don't learn easy." "They'll learn this way," I said. By the end of that week, my neighbor Marlene told me she'd seen Marcus at the hardware store. "He looked worn out," she said. "Like he hadn't slept." I thanked her and changed the subject. But that night, as I was closing my blinds, I thought about him. Not as my son, but as a man finally facing his own reflection. I'd raised him to handle life, not hide from it. But I realized I'd made it too easy for him to skip the hard parts. I'd softened every blow before it could reach him. When you love someone too hard, you can end up raising a person who doesn't know how to stand up straight. On the 9th day, a letter came in the mail. My name written in Marcus's handwriting, small and careful. Inside was a short note. "Ma, I'm sorry. You were right about everything. I didn't protect you. I didn't protect myself. I'll make this right. I just need time. No excuses. No blame. Just that." I put it in the same drawer as my own copy of the letter I sent him. Then I made a pot of soup, ate my dinner, and slept easy for the first time since the reunion. 2 weeks passed. Then one afternoon, while I was sweeping my porch, a silver sedan pulled into my driveway. I recognized it right away, Vanessa's. She sat there for a minute before getting out, like someone deciding whether to knock or drive away. She had no makeup on, hair pulled back, clothes plain. Just herself. I waited until she walked up the steps. "Good afternoon," I said. "Hi," she said, voice soft. "Can I talk to you?" "You already here," I said, stepping aside. She came in and stood by the table, fidgeting with her hands. I didn't know how to start this. "I know you don't owe me anything, but I needed to see you face to face." I nodded. "Go on." She took a shaky breath. "That day, at the reunion, I don't even know what came over me. I was embarrassed, angry. I felt like you were always trying to take over." "I wasn't," I said. "But I understand how you felt." Her eyes widened. "You do." "I've been someone's daughter-in-law before," I said. "I know what it's like to feel watched. But I never forgot who built the table I sat at." She looked down. "I forgot." I didn't speak. I let the silence sit. It did the talking for me. Finally, she said, "Marcus told me you closed the account. I don't blame you. We shouldn't have used it the way we did. I'm sorry for everything." I kept my tone even. "Sorry's a word. Change is an action. Which one you bringing me today?" She blinked hard, nodded once, and reached into her purse. "We managed to pay off what we took. This is the rest." She slid an envelope across the table. I didn't touch it. "You think money fixes this?" I asked. "No," she said quickly. "I just wanted to make thing." I studied her face. For the first time, she looked like she wasn't performing. No charm, no attitude. Just honesty. "You've got a lot to fix," I said finally. "But you're starting in the right direction." Tears slipped down her cheeks. "I don't expect you to forgive me." "I already did," I said. "Forgiveness isn't the same as trust. You've got to earn that back." She nodded. "I understand." When she stood to leave, I said, "Vanessa." She turned. "Don't hit what you can't afford to lose," I said quietly. She swallowed hard. "Yes, ma'am." And that was it. No dramatics. No hugs. Just a clean end to a dirty day. That night, I made myself dinner and sat by the window while the crickets chirped. The air was cool, and the house smelled like stew. I thought about the way Vanessa's voice cracked when she apologized. It wasn't fake. She'd felt the lesson. But I also knew life wasn't done teaching them. Not yet. Money's one thing. Reputation's another. And both were about to come knocking. By the following weekend, The story had reached the rest of the family. My cousin David called. "Evelyn, you okay? Folks been talking about that reunion." "I'm fine," I said. "People still can't believe she did that in front of everyone," he said. "But I'll tell you one thing, she's walking different now. Saw her at the church fundraiser looking like she just got back from Judgment Day." I smiled faintly. "Good. Judgment's not always a bad thing." He chuckled. "You're colder than you look." "No," I said. "I'm warm where it matters." That Sunday, my pastor's wife pulled me aside after service. "We've been praying for your family," she said gently. "Keep praying," I told her. "God's doing the work. I'm just watching." And I meant it. Because silence wasn't revenge. It was a way to step back and let the truth do what it does best. Reveal itself. A few evenings later, my phone rang again. This time I picked up. "Ma. Marcus." He sounded relieved. "You answered." I did. He hesitated. "Can I come by tomorrow? Just to talk." "All right," I said. "Come early. I'll make coffee." Marcus showed up early the next morning, just after 8. I saw his truck pull up slow, like he wasn't sure if I'd changed my mind overnight. He sat there for a minute, hands still on the wheel. Then he took a deep breath, got out and came up the steps. When he knocked, I didn't make him wait. I opened the door right away. "Morning," I said. "Morning, Ma." He looked thinner, eyes tired, clothes wrinkled like he'd been too distracted to iron. I could see the weight sitting on him, not just the bills or the embarrassment but the guilt. The kind that eats a person slow. "Come in," I said. He stepped inside, glanced around the kitchen, then sat down at the table without asking. I poured coffee into 2 cups and set one in front of him. He stared at it for a few seconds before saying, "You mad at me?" I took a sip. "If I was mad, you'd know it. This ain't anger, Marcus. It's disappointment." He nodded. "I deserve that." "You do." He ran his hand over his face, the same way Harold used to when he couldn't find words. "I don't even know what to say." "Try the truth," I said. He exhaled slow. "I froze that day. I saw it happening and I didn't move. I wanted to. I just didn't know what would make it worse. I kept my voice level. You thought doing nothing was safer." He nodded again. "Yeah. Doing nothing isn't safe, baby. It's just quiet cowardice. Silence is powerful, but only when it's chosen. You used it to hide." He winced. "I know. I can't defend that." "You shouldn't try," I said. For a while, neither of us spoke. The clock ticked on the wall. I could feel the air thick between us, but not heavy. Just honest. He finally said, "I took that account for granted. I told myself we'd pay it back. Vanessa said it was family money. I didn't think about what it really meant." "What did it mean?" I asked. He hesitated. "That you trusted me. That you thought I'd treat it with respect." "And did you?" He looked down. "No, ma'am." "That's right," I said softly. "You didn't." His shoulders dropped. "You were right to take my name off. We didn't deserve it." "That's not about deserving," I said. "That's about accountability. You're a grown man with a wife and a home. You can't keep living like your mother's your safety net." He rubbed his eyes. "We're learning that now. The hard way. Sometimes that's the only way." He looked up at me, voice low. "She came to see you, didn't she?" "She did." He nodded. "She told me after. Said you didn't yell. Wouldn't have changed the outcome." He half smiled. "She said you told her, 'Don't hit what you can't afford to lose.'" I did. "That's cold, Ma." "No, that's truth," I said. "And truth feels cold when you've been living too close to comfort." He let out a breath, looked at his cup, then said quietly, "I'm sorry I didn't defend you. I'll regret that the rest of my life." I leaned back, folded my arms. "Don't waste time regretting. Do better. You can't rewrite that day, but you can decide what kind of man you're going to be now." He nodded. "I will. I promise." I believed him. Not because of his words, those are cheap, but because of how he looked when he said them. He wasn't a boy begging for forgiveness. He was a man owning the damage. We talked a while longer. About life, about Harold, about how easy it is to lose your way trying to keep peace with everyone. I told him what Harold once told me. "Peace that costs you your dignity ain't peace. It's silence with a price tag. Marcus listened. For the first time in a long time, he didn't interrupt or explain. He just listened. Before he left, he stood up and said, "I know you'll never add me back to that account, and you shouldn't. But if you ever need help with anything, Ma, you let me know." "I will," I said. He hugged me. Not quick, not performative. Real. Tight. The kind that says, "Thank you for not giving up on me, even when you could've." "I love you, Ma," he said. "I know," I replied. "Now act like it." He smiled. "Yes, ma'am." After he left, I sat on the porch for a while, letting the sun hit my face. The air smelled like cut grass and the neighbor's laundry soap. For the first time since the slap, I felt clean inside. Not vindicated. Just steady. My phone buzzed around 6 that evening. A text from Vanessa. "Thank you for giving Marcus a chance to talk. I know he doesn't say much, but that conversation meant everything to him. I hope one day you'll come for dinner again. I want to start over properly." I stared at the message for a while, then typed back, "We'll see. Keep showing me who you are." That was it. No emojis. No softness. Just truth. The next few weeks I noticed small shifts. Marcus started calling twice a week, not to ask for help, just to check in. Vanessa sent small photos of their house, new curtains, repainted fence, the hydrangeas she'd planted in the yard. She didn't ask for anything. She just kept showing up in small, quiet ways. That's how trust starts to rebuild. Not with speeches, but with consistency. By mid-fall, she called and said, "Evelyn, I know you don't owe me your time, but I'd like to invite you to dinner. I'll be cooking, no takeout this time." I smiled to myself. "What you making?" "Chicken and rice," she said. "I heard you like it." "I'll think about it," I said. The next day I showed up anyway. When she opened the door, the smell hit first. Real food, seasoned right, not store-bought shortcuts. She was wearing jeans, an apron, and a nervous smile. "Evelyn," she said softly, "I didn't think you'd come." "Well," I said, stepping in, "you invited me. I'm not rude." She laughed nervously, then led me to the table. Marcus was already there, setting down plates. The house looked warmer now, not expensive, not polished, but calm. We ate. We talked a little about work, about the roof he'd finally fixed himself, about how they were saving money the old-fashioned way by saying no to things. After dinner, Vanessa said quietly, "I'm not expecting you to forget that day. I just want you to know it changed me. I used to think respect was something you demanded. Now I know it's something you earn. Every day." I nodded. "That's a good start." Marcus reached across the table, took her hand and said, "We're doing better, Ma. We're learning how to talk without hurting each other. That's all any marriage is," I said. "Learning how to speak soft when life gets loud." When I got home that night, the porch light was already on. I stood there looking at it, remembering Harold's words. "You keep a porch light on, not for people to find you, but so they remember you're still here." That light didn't feel like waiting anymore. Felt like closure. I sat at my kitchen table and smiled to myself. The slap that once humiliated me had done what years of talking couldn't. It had taught all three of us the price of peace. And peace, once earned, doesn't come cheap. Winter came early that year. The first frost hit the grass before Thanksgiving, and the air in the mornings had that thin bite that made the coffee taste better. I was sitting by the window when I got a text from Marcus. "Ma, family reunion next month. Vanessa's planning it again. She asked me to make sure you come." I read it twice. The irony wasn't lost on me. A year ago, that same text would have filled me with dread. Now it just made me smile. "All right," I typed back. "If she's brave enough to host again, I'm brave enough to eat her food." He sent a laughing emoji. Then, "She said she's making your sweet potato pie recipe this time." That one made me laugh out loud. "She better not mess it up," I wrote. "I'll tell her you said that." The day of the reunion came mild and clear. Sunlight sliding through the trees like the year itself was offering a second chance. The house and yard looked the same. Folding tables, coolers full of ice, kids chasing each other with plastic cups of lemonade. The only difference was the air. It didn't hum with tension anymore. People smiled easy. Even Vanessa. She greeted me first, arms open. "Evelyn," she said, her tone soft and steady. "You look beautiful." I took in the sight of her. Simple blue dress, hair pulled back, a lightness in her posture I'd never seen before. "Thank you, baby," I said. "You too." She gave me a small smile, genuine this time. "Thank you for coming." "I told Marcus I don't miss family unless I'm dead," I said. "And I don't plan on that just yet." We both laughed. The sound felt clean. Later, while folks gathered around the buffet line, I caught her watching me from the other end of the table. Not in that guarded way she used to, but with something like respect, the kind that says I know who you are now, and I see it clearly. When it was time for the big family photo again, she walked over and said, "Evelyn, you stand right here next to Marcus." I raised an eyebrow. "You sure? That caused trouble last time." She shook her head. "That was last time." So I stood there, my hand on my son's shoulder, my head high. The camera flashed, and this time there was no shouting, no cutting words, no slap. Just laughter, pure, steady laughter. When the evening wound down and folks started packing up, Vanessa came over with a plate wrapped in foil. "I made extra for you," she said. "Your pie didn't come out quite like yours, but I tried." I took the plate. "Effort's half the recipe," I said. She smiled. "I'm learning." "Good," I said. "Keep learning. That's how you stay married." She laughed softly. "And that's how you stay respected, right?" "That too," I said. A few weeks later, they invited me over for dinner again. It had become a quiet rhythm now. Every other Sunday, no drama, no tension. Just family. I'd bring something small like biscuits or greens and they'd cook the rest. That evening, Marcus grilled in the backyard while I helped Vanessa set the table. The smell of charcoal drifted through the open door. And the house felt alive. She said, "Evelyn, can I ask you something?" "Go ahead." "When you sent that letter, were you afraid that Marcus might hate you for it?" I thought about it for a moment. "No," I said, "because real love can stand discipline. And if he hated me for setting a boundary, then he needed to find out who he was without my help." She nodded slowly. "That makes sense." "I wasn't trying to hurt him," I said. "But sometimes love has to step back so lessons can step in." She leaned on the counter. "That's what I'm learning too. I used to think control meant strength. But it's just fear in disguise." I looked at her, really looked at her. "You're growing up, Vanessa." She smiled, shy this time. "Trying to." Marcus walked in then, wiping his hands on a towel. "Y'all bonding in here?" "Trying to," I said again, and we all laughed. After dinner we sat outside, plates empty, night air cool. Marcus reached over and held Vanessa's hand. "I never thought we'd get back to this," he said. "I didn't either," I said. "But respect has a way of fixing what pride breaks." Vanessa nodded. "Thank you for not giving up on us." "I didn't," I said. "I just stepped back far enough for you to see the edge." She blinked. That's exactly what it felt like. Like you let us fall, but you were still standing there if we figured out how to climb back up." "That's called parenting," I said. When I left that night, Marcus walked me to my car. "You think Dad would be proud of how we're doing now?" he asked quietly. "He'd be proud that you learned without breaking," I said. He nodded. "You know, I used to think you were being cold when you stopped answering the phone. Now I see it. You were just tired of talking to people who weren't listening." I smiled. "Exactly." He leaned down, kissed my forehead. "Thank you, Ma." "Always, baby," I said. "Just keep doing right." By spring, things were steady again. My life felt full but peaceful. Church on Sundays. Gardening on Tuesdays. Family dinner twice a month. Vanessa called me sometimes just to talk. No requests, no complaints, just conversation. One morning she sent a picture message. The hydrangeas we'd planted months back were blooming. Wide blue clusters spilling over the edge of their porch. Under it she wrote, "Look what we grew." I typed back, "Beautiful. Keep watering it. Peace dries out quick." When summer came again, it had been exactly 1 year since the reunion. Marcus and Vanessa hosted another cookout, smaller this time. Just close family. I brought my pie like always, but this time Vanessa's sat beside mine. Same color, same smell. Everyone laughed, ate, and told stories. Near the end of the night, Marcus tapped his glass and said, "I just want to thank my mother for teaching us something hard but important. Respect isn't free. It's earned. And when you forget that, life reminds you." The crowd murmured, clapped lightly. Vanessa added. And thank you for your silence. That silence changed us more than words ever could. I smiled and said, I'm glad it did. Then I raised my glass. To learning things the quiet way. Everyone repeated it softly. The quiet way. That night after I got home, I sat on my porch with my tea. The neighborhood was still, the sky full of stars. My porch light glowed steady like always. I thought about that day a year ago. About the sound of her hand, the hush that followed, the way I walked away without a word. People still ask me how I stayed calm. How I didn't react. The truth is I didn't need to. Some people need to lose access to you before they realize what you were giving for free. My silence taught what no sermon could. It taught Marcus that manhood isn't comfort. It's courage. It taught Vanessa that respect isn't obedience. It's grace. And it reminded me that peace isn't a gift other people give. It's the one you give yourself when you finally stop arguing with fools. Sometimes the quietest moments are the loudest lessons. I used to think strength was holding a family together no matter what. But now I know real strength is letting go long enough for people to meet you at your level. When I walked out of that reunion, I didn't walk out defeated. I walked out deciding that my peace was worth more than being liked. Deciding that my boundaries weren't up for debate. Deciding that love can stay but access can change. That's what boundaries do. They don't close doors, they just stop people from walking in with muddy shoes. So if you've ever been disrespected by someone who should have known better, don't waste your breath trying to make them understand. Make them feel it through absence, through silence, through distance. People learn fastest when the noise of your explanations finally stops, and they have to face themselves. And when they do, if they do, you'll see the difference. Not in their words, but in the way they knock before they enter your peace again. Would you have done what I did? Or would you have raised your voice that day and lost your calm? Tell me in the comments. And if this story reminded you of your own, share it. Someone out there might need to know that sometimes silence isn't surrender. Sometimes it's the sound of winning.